Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Align Farms Regen Chat, the first of the 2024-2025 season. We'll kick right into it. What have your general learnings been from this season so far? We'll start with you, Kiri.
Not too much learnings in regards to trial, to be fair. It's kind of kicked off as per norm now, going into how many seasons are we now?
Fourth.
Yeah, going into number 4, but definitely had a few goals in mind that we wanted to try and achieve this year, but yeah, not too much in regards to trial.
How about yourself, Rhys?
Yeah, a couple for me. I wouldn't say that we certainly haven't learnt, but we're learning probably the need to increase our regrassing. So Kiri and I went to an organic field day, and probably one of the key things we took out of that was, that they're regrassing their entire farm over like a 4 or 5 year period and seem to be maintaining quite good diversity from what we've seen. So I think we've taken a bit of a learning from that around, how can we implement that? So we're just working in the background around coming up with a bit more of an aggressive regrassing strategy to try and maintain higher levels of diversity and also still getting the functional benefits from a productivity and environmental and soil health perspective. So that's probably something that we're still on the journey of.
Are they direct drilling it in, or how are they regrassing?
There was a mixture. One of their advantages were that they were growing a lot of maize and turnip. They were a dry land situation, so they were growing a lot of maize and turnips on their platform. So they had like a more of a rotation than what we currently have.
Right.
But I don't think that we should let that stop us. But they were doing a mixture of a lot of things. So we're working on that at the moment around what that looks like for our farming system. We have tried a few things like drilling in and oversowing, etc. And I wouldn't necessarily say they were hyper successful or hyper non-successful, but I think we do need to improve. Like my memory goes back to like year 1 when we were although we were probably on 35-day rounds. I remember going into some paddocks that were like over the height of the Rav bonnet.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that in the last 2 years. So I think that's a combination of trying to maximise grass production and quality, but also we need to find that balance. That's what the whole Regen trial's been about, is finding that balance. And potentially we've gone too far one way. So that was one learning. And the other one is around compaction. Like, I still don't quite think we've nailed compaction. I know just some real basic level compaction tests when we went through those soil cover crops, it seemed to improve. And I think, if you go back now, they're back to where they are. So it'll be interesting to see what these soil VSAs come back with. But I have been noticing more compacted soils again over the last 6 months, since winter. So it was, I wouldn't say we had a wet calving, but certainly the first 2 weeks was quite damp. I wouldn't say the ground really sponged back to life post that. So that's just something that I am keeping an eye on at the moment. But no real standout learnings other than the fact that I think we could do better at regrassing to maintain levels of diversity. We've probably found that drop off over the time. So that's either we're either overgrazing or we need to continue to regrass. So we're just working through what that looks like for our farm system at the moment.
Cool. Yeah. So what were has there been any highlights of the season so far for you, Kiri?
The production's always the highlight. I kind of went into it and thought, if we can do what we did last year, then I'll be stoked. And so I kind of followed that trend, but we've exceeded that and are up on both sides. So that's really cool for the Regen to be up again. So yeah, I'm excited to see what we can do. And I just think it just gives us so much more option at the end of the year when it gets, it can get really tight and you know, it can stop growing pretty quickly, that diverse stuff, when it gets cold. And if we get a really cold autumn, it shuts off so quick, and it just gives us not a heap of option. Whereas if we, you know, bank up quite a bit of production, we're not relying on it. And so, yeah, so that's been really cool, been stoked about that. The cows, pre-mating heats seem to be cycling really well on both sides. And we come into week 1 with a hiss and a roar, and I thought, wow, we're going to really go for it. And it has died off a wee bit with submission rates, but I'm still kind of hopeful. I think one of the biggest things is we fed a lot of silage, like a lot more than what we normally do in and during calving and that, and even into, I think we stopped mid-September. We just didn't have the grass. We didn't go in with the feed this year, and that, well, with the cover, and that was solely because everyone in May went backwards, and went backwards really quickly, and we couldn't. If we were to dry off with the cover, we would have had to dry off 1st of May. So yeah, but I think that's actually been a plus side, feeding all that silage. As much as I don't love feeding heaps of silage, I think that's actually, you know, that I'm actually excited to see if that's going to change our mating results, and if that's going to help the girls at their feeding levels over this time. So yeah, and then obviously the grass has just gone mad. So it went mad, but I must say that in the last week, the regens actually dropped a bit. However, we did kind of get quite aggressive with a bit of we regrass. I just need to think about which side I'm on now. We have obviously got 3 hectares out for a cover crop on the regen side, and when we cut 18 hectares of silage on the regen side already. So that's kind of cool. Although we've come to a bit where we don't have as much cover as what we would normally like. I kind of, we're starting to see a lot of seed come through. So that potentially has actually saved us, because if we were going into a lot of cover, we might have quite a bit of seed in front of us, and we might not be able to get on top of the quality. So yeah, so a lot of exciting things this year, and I think it's just going to hopefully set us up to play around with a few things in regards to regrassing, and I've been doing a bit of deferred grazing already, and that's actually on both sides, and so yeah, so bit of a play around, but other than that, it's good. Happy.
Yeah, curious to see how mating results come this year, especially if the difference between the regen and the conventional continues.
Yeah.
Rhys, how about yourself? What was a highlight for you?
Yeah, highlight for me is Kiri's the regen side's up 6% on last year, which is good growth. So if you push that out across the year, that's getting us to about just on 1,400 milk solids a hectare, which we've gone up every year for 4 years, just keep ticking up, which is good. So interesting to see where that finishes, really. Like where is that kind of, as we continue to learn the system, I guess we've got better and better at it, but there will be an equilibrium where that growth will peter off. So it's exciting to see another lift again this year. And yeah, a slight improvement in submission rates. Kiri made comment that she wasn't super happy with her submission rates, but they were just on 90%, which is industry targets. I'm pretty impressed with that, to be fair. So I think total 88% for a herd. The regen was 90%, conventional 87%. Slight change there, but not something that I would say is significant, but it's a compounding effect that will go forward. So I think from a results perspective, productivity perspective, it's good to just keep building on those learnings and compound. But so they're probably my 2 highlights. It's just it's good to see that we're taking the learnings and growing and improving. And I guess that's what Regina is about. It's about being better than we were yesterday, but not as good as we will be tomorrow. So, and we've seen those staggered growths each year. We've got better and better. which is good to see, and it'll be interesting to see where that finishes, over time.
Yeah, cool to see as the trends continue. So Kiri, how about a disappointment from this season so far?
I think the disappointment is obviously in the last week, the growth rate going down for the Regen. That's kind of disappointing because I kind of thought we were going up. So I think it's bouncing back. I haven't done a plate walk yet, but I think it's bouncing back. But yeah, I was kind of surprised, to be fair. Their growth rates were 10 less a day than the conventional, and I'm pretty sure from memory we were going above conventional. We were starting to climb above conventional. So yeah, just not 100% sure what that is, whether that's a fertilizer thing, application. We're playing around a little bit in that space, so whether that has an impact or not. And then the not so much a trial perspective, but cows have definitely come in this year average in regards to like udders and things like that. That's been really disappointing. You think you clean up as what you can going off whatever your empty rate is, and ours wasn't amazing, so we couldn't do huge numbers of cows, but I thought we had cleaned up quite a bit, but it turns out we hadn't. They come back again, so that's been really disappointing. So we have actually done quite a bit of a cleanup, as well as a few losses. So but that's just part and parcel. And then we've put in quite a good strategy this year with mating, and hopefully we can breed that out. But obviously you just don't see that for a while. But yeah, so no, that's probably my only main disappointment is just the animal health thing. It's just, we went in with quite a few cows, and through purchases, and yeah, we've had to do a bit of a cleanup, but I guess if we didn't purchase the cows, then we wouldn't have very many cows at all.
Yeah. All right. How about yourself, Rhys?
Yeah, I think what Kiri's mainly referring to there is across our wider business. To be fair, I think we seem to have those troubles everywhere. To be fair, but probably my key one when it comes to the actual Regen performance is shoulder season growth is continuing to let us down. In my warped reality of what it should be. So maybe it is what it is, and we just have to accept it and not be disappointed by it. But it still disappoints me because I think if we could nail that, it'll solve a heap of other problems, So we are still battling away with reduced growth across the shoulders. So one highlight that I didn't mention is I think we're 1.5 tonne or 1,500 kilos of dry matter ahead of last year from a cumulative grass production perspective, but a lot of that occurred through like October, November. We had really, really favourable growth through October, especially on the Regen side. So we're still not seeing further growth in from April, May, June, July, August. We just battle away, and that needs to be addressed. So, in my view, so we either need to accept it and put it down as it is what it is, or we need to continue to be curious and fight for trying to improve that. So that's probably still I don't think my disappointment's changed from year one, to be honest with you. I think if we can nail that,
be a game changer. Yeah.
Then it's a massive game changer. So probably my disappointment is we haven't seen any advances there, and that's something that we probably need to put a hand up and say, hey, look, we're not learning as fast as what we could there. So yeah.
I think one thing when we went up to that organic, Rhys and I went up to the Pamu organic day, and I was a bit skeptical of organics, but these guys actually do a really, really good job and completely changed my view on organics. You can still have a tidy farm with organics. I guess it just depends, what your taste is, I guess. So they do a really good job, but their grass was outstanding. and yeah, looked really, really good. I think one thing that I learned pretty quickly is our soil was not like that. And so I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about what, we can't change the soil. It is what it is. But yeah, how could we get to, if we could get to their state, then yeah, that would be amazing. I mean, you'd have no shadow of doubt that it's, a no-brainer. But yeah, it's we're dealing with different areas, and that's just part and parcel of farming where you farm.
How long have they been putting diverse species in, and do they have similar issues with the shoulder periods?
Not as I guess, they're in the North Island, a lot better, like a lot cooler winter, a lot milder winters, shorter winters as well. So certainly they have a reduction in winter performance over summer performance. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as prolific is probably the word on Canterbury. But
yeah,
like as Kiri mentioned, they seem to maintain, like, not, it wasn't hyper diverse pastures in any way, but the feed quality was pretty amazing in my opinion. Yeah, it was like, righto, if that is what we want, and it can be done, which was good. So I think the key message there was, that no grass is really older than 4 or 5 years, which I think makes a big difference to management and pasture quality. So it's like, righto, they've got quite a good rotation where they can, I can see how that works. Like, right, what does it look like for us? Their issue is probably summer growth, where we don't really have that problem. Ours is more winter growth.
Yeah.
So different challenges, but I don't know. Like, I'd hate to say, hey, us all bollards just go to a 25% regrassing policy and all your problems go away. No, I don't think that's the answer, but it's part of the solution.
Yeah.
I think when we went into it with the diverse species, we kind of made a thing between the three of us that we weren't going to go into heavy regrassing, and we were going to, let it do its thing and see if we could get it to regenerate. But it kind of just hasn't, and that's been a little bit disappointing. So I think we've done what we said we were going to do and tried to push it as far as we can. But there has been species that has pretty much gone, and it has left a gap in the system, and that's kind of like, if we didn't know, we wouldn't have done it. And then I guess on the other hand of that is we regrassed 140, well, not 140, 130 hectares of regrassing. So yeah, I think we're done our regrassing for the next 10 years. But yeah, we might need to get back into it. So yeah, I think, and we've tweaked a lot of things too, tweaked a lot of our mixes and things like that. So hopefully that can help us.
Yeah. I think if you're regrassing more often, you've got a younger species which is more resilient to longer grazing rounds. So when we had younger grass, we could let it go longer and maintain quality for longer. As it's matured, we've had to go on faster rounds to then keep the quality, which has then lost the diversity. So it's like, it's a real catch-22. Like, we kind of, every problem you solve, you kind of create another one. So it's like, my thoughts are, and I'm happy to be proved wrong, is I think if we can keep it more younger grass species, we will be able to then afford to be able to go into 4,500 covers and get away with it. Whereas if we went for 4,500 covers with the current grass species we've got, I think we'd get ourselves into dire trouble. And I think if you go to an interesting graph to go to look at it was if you go to the season comparisons and look at like year one, where we run these really, really high covers and just production just got to like 1.9, then it was down to about 1.5 within a couple of months. Whereas every other year we've been able to maintain quality, we've been able to keep that production up. Like this year, the cows are still in the twos, which is a real strength to the way that we've managed the pastures, but we're also managing the pastures in a way that doesn't promote diversity. So it's like, where is that middle ground and where's that sweet spot? And it's probably a combination of the two. Like I know even in our conventional systems, we use different species with different heading dates, so we don't have the whole farm heading on the same date. We can share it. So it's like there's no real simple solution here. And I guess, as much as, Regen's all about trying to find these things out, explore them, try different things, be curious and be open-minded. But I feel at times, because we're assessing all the data so often, we kind of solve one problem and end up just creating another one, and that's the complexity of dealing with nature and biological systems. There's no real one silver bullet out here. So, like one thing, I've seen grass look like what I would like it to look like every day of the year, and that's not practical because grass goes into reproductive phase. But I think if we could regrass more often, I think we would be able to go on longer grazing rounds, which would promote diversity, which would then potentially, promote pasture production, and in turn milk production, which is ultimately how we drive revenue. So it's all a big learning curve.
Yeah, and we've started to get some of the results from our milk testing trial, and we do see that the presence of diversity is impacting the milk in a positive way. So further motivation to try to keep those species in the paddock.
Yeah. One thing I think we've probably, and this is probably me as well, is and it's probably protection more than anything. It's risk mitigation. A risk mitigator to reduction of urea has been increasing clover content, which I think's probably ended up being a negative, not a positive. We've probably gone too far with the clover, and haven't gone far enough with the herbs and other opportunities. So, it's because you're dealing with biological, it's hard to say, right, I'm going to plant this species, I'm going to get exactly 18% of the sward as clover. But, I think, some areas we're getting up to 50 or 60%. And that's because, these areas have opened up, as Kiri mentioned, and it's let more clover in, which has made it go quite prolific. So, the challenge, I guess, to diversity is maintaining adequate diversity. So for me, I don't think it's a question of whether diversity needs to be in a pasture. That's I agree that needs to happen. That we need to continue to maintain and increase diversity. My big question now is how do you kind of do that and kind of maintain some level of control so you don't keep going from one end to the other and bouncing around. And that's probably where the idea of more rigorous regrassing, because I think you can kind of control it in more of a fan, and when it gets too far, potentially you replace it. I'm not too sure, but I thought, if we're not going to put an N on, we need to promote clover growth, because then that will fix the nitrogen, that will solve our nitrogen problem. But it's probably created other problems. Yeah, it's created poorer shoulder growth. It's created it's opened pastures up. We haven't, been actually growing the feed that we thought we were going to grow. So that was a mistake in reflection that I put as a risk mitigation factor to try and mitigate the risk of reduction of nitrogen, which hasn't probably been a successful risk mitigation strategy. Yep.
Good to try though, and know that it's not the way.
We've got plenty of this.
We've got more of those, and we've got more of what not to do than we do. But
it's valuable.
That's why we're here. Like, this is like when I go back to when we first mothballed doing this trial. I guess we were relatively frustrated that there was all these silver bullets, and we wanted to trial what works and what doesn't work. So, a success is finding things out that aren't working are just as successful as the ones that are. And there's been a heap that have worked and a heap that haven't worked. So that's the point of the trial, is to be curious and understand, try and explore, learn faster, and then replicate those learnings. So
Yep, and it all accumulates the knowledge that we have, and so you can make better decisions going forward. Yep. All right, so we'll go into some specific discussions about the farm. We're starting with animal health. Kiri, you've touched on it slightly, but do you have anything else to say about the animal health this season?
No, not so much. Just that there seems to be the animal health on the graph does seem to have a lot more than in the past, but we are getting quite like everything is in there now. So when you touch the cow, it's in there. And so whereas in the past we have the data, but does it really go into the system? Probably not. So yeah, it does look like that we have skyrocketed in animal health cases, but I think what we'll do at the end, Claire, is potentially at the end of the season we'll probably try and pull it out of it.
Yeah.
Pull it out and then actually make a comparison on mastitis and quite a few things, because yeah, it does look like that, but that's like come down to like using tetravet spray is now in there, which in the past is not. So yeah, just things like that, but I don't feel like it's too bad. We have a little bit of mastitis going on, and cell count did seem to be a little bit higher than in the past. For both sides, probably more on the conventional side than the regen side. But yeah, we did teat seal only half the herd last year. So that was always going to be a bit of a trial. And I haven't actually looked at any data specifically to see what they're coming out at after the last herd test. But yeah, so it's more just trying to have a bit of a clean up and try and, always trying to improve the herd so that we can maintain the best results. But yeah, condition score and everything seems to be good. And I think, funny enough, in the last coat scoring, the conventional was cleaner, and I have no idea why. Not too sure at all, but yeah, it was only slightly. Usually the regen does that.
Yeah. Wonder why. Yeah, Rhys, how about yourself? Anything to add to the animal health discussion?
No, I don't. Yeah, nothing that's of any value to anyone other than I think cow conditions exceptional across the farm, the entire farm. To be fair, I think there's some they're probably the best I've looked in a long time. To be fair, so don't have any I'm not seeing or hearing or visualizing anything that of any value to anyone. Yeah.
Cool. Now, yeah, we've discussed it a bit already as well, but just anything to say around the pasture and pasture management, Kiri?
There's not really much to add to it, except the only thing I would say is that, it's bloody hard not to want milk and not want heaps of it, and not to be able to be, doing a good amount per cow or per hectare. So it's really hard to not chase that. And I think that's kind of a hard thing, is that as the manager, you want to chase that on both sides. And that's where you chase quality. And I think, this diverse grass on the regen side in its current state does not give me enough faith to just leave it to longer rounds. And I mean, it is longer round. I'm currently 27 versus 21, I think, round length, but it doesn't give me a lot of faith to do what I was doing in the first year or second year. And I, hand on heart, would say that if I left it, we would be have huge quality issues, and we would not be doing the milk. And there kind of becomes a point, and we tried this a bit in the second year, I think, and there becomes a point where we just can't afford to not be sending milk, especially this year. So I think, I want us to get to a point where we're comfortable again and having these higher covers and leaving, like higher residuals, and, doing a bit of trampling and be giving ad lib feed, I guess you could say. That's my goal for this whole thing, is to get to that point. But in the meantime, just because I'm not reaching those and I'm hitting you know, a 1500 residual does not mean that that's still not my goal. It's just that we can't in the current situation do that. And what it would be a little bit of a disaster if I tried to do that, knowing that it's not going to work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's still the goal, is to do what we were doing in our first year.
With the deferred paddocks, how long are you planning to leave them, or?
So currently what I've been doing is they're deferred at the back. So obviously I've got long walks, and so for you, Claire, that's like 18, 19, 21, 22.
Yeah.
And pretty much I just leave the last 2.5 to 3 hectares. And I'm actually seeing really cool, like it's actually really working. I mean, yep, the quality kind of gets a bit average, but it's like terrible soils down there. And, you know, but we actually do get the cover. And so I've just kind of been deferring that last bit that's not great in the paddock, and then eating it on the next round. But it's actually quite cool doing it, because you can actually grow quite a bit of feed when you do that. Whereas, there's times where that you wouldn't even calculate that into your feed for the cows in that time. So it is, and then obviously with the Regen, not so much with the conventional, but with the Regen I do try and take as many pictures as I can to see what is changing, or if we're getting more or less, and then try and hit that seed stage with the Regen so that we are doing what deferred's meant to do, type thing. So I think it has huge benefit, especially if you've got long walks and you can afford to do it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Anything to add to the pasture discussion, Rhys?
No, I think we've probably done that to death, to be fair. But it is positive to see an increase in grass production on both sides this season, which is a reflection of favourable weather conditions, etc. So and we're turning that into milk. Like in the past, we've had increased production, but we haven't been able to turn that into milk. So that's a positive, I guess. But I think we've done pasture to death. There's everything that I've said above. I think we need to continue to monitor and work on, and agree with Kiri's comments.
All right. We can move on to supplements. Kiri, you spoke about some silage already. Anything to add in the supplement space?
No. So I believe we're down on grain and up on silage. But so I'm excited to see. At the time it felt like a real drag. There was sometimes it was up to 7 kgs a cow in silage. It was a lot. But I'm excited to see if this is going to have an effect, and if this is going to have a really good effect on reproduction and things like that. And I think it actually just really set up a really good baseline for the girls. Do I want to go and feed that much silage again? Probably not. But I'm excited to see how the year pans out, and then just what if it's going to. I think silage has a really good. It's a no-brainer in a lot of cases. So I definitely. I just hate the wagon being out all bloody day. But so no, not so much around supplement.
Cool. Anything to add, Rhys?
Probably only comment was that organic day, there was a lady there from Offshore Quality that put a presentation on organics, and when she was going through the checklist, the only thing that effectively said that we weren't organic was the fact that we were still buying non-organic supplements. So I'm not suggesting that we're going to rip into organics anytime soon, but we're pretty much there. And organics is receiving a $2 premium. So you add $2 onto our numbers, for example. It would add a little bit more to our, wouldn't be a little bit, but it would add a moderate cost to our supplement line, which you would argue potentially could get to a stage where the return's not there, so we actually drop supplement back. But you add $2 a milk solid to some of our numbers, and it's quite attractive from a return perspective. So that I certainly pondered that when we're having that discussion is what's the availability of organic supplement in Canterbury? Probably relatively limited would be my suggestion, but that was really the only thing that was, and treatment of cows, which can be addressed, was the only real thing that was limiting us going to that next stage of going organic, which I'm not suggesting's on the radar, but it was just something to ponder. Yep.
Yep. It's something to consider as we explore.
Well,
going
if
into
there's other
consumer
people out
market.
there that are following us,
Yeah.
following our journey, we've probably got a slightly different strategy with our milk, with our value add kind of strategy. But another way to look at what we're doing is saying, hey, look, if you can find a way to treat animals, and you can get your head around treating animals and get your head around sourcing supplement, you could add $2 a milk solid to our numbers if you could talk Fonterra into picking your milk up, and that does change the game quite quickly.
Yeah. All right. Now talk a bit about irrigation. How's this season been going, Kiri?
It's just normal, to be fair. I don't see too much difference. No. Nope.
Yeah, so you feel like you're irrigating both sides the same, relatively?
Yeah, definitely. I don't see any real difference in that. Yeah, I would turn irrigation on for both sides for the same reasons.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really, I don't have the cover to, I think the only time is when you get over 4,000 covers, when you could probably start changing your irrigation. The downside to that is that, there is paddocks among paddocks with Regen and conventional. So, there's only so much you can manipulate, but no, there's no change in that. I think the only, you got to go over quite a big cover to start changing that.